Hey guys, how's it going? It's Baggins here, and today we are back and we're on the PTR, or the PTS, or the test server, whatever you want to call it. Basically, the next patch of New World that we're going to see, the next big patch, we are now playing on a separate test server. If you guys don't know how to get onto the test server and you would like to check out some of the changes, I'll put a link on how you can do that in the description down below. But some of the biggest things that we have coming into the test server, of course, are the new weapon, and on top of that, we have a lot of changes to the life staff as well. Now, I don't have any patch notes I can point you guys to yet. You're just going to have to take my word on it. But basically, we've been looking at the abilities in the live version of the game, and we've been looking at the abilities in the test version of the game in here, and we can already immediately see some differences. For example, with Sacred Ground on live, this is a 15-second duration, whereas now it's only 12 seconds here. It's also healing for 16% of the weapon damage rather than 20% of the weapon damage, so a bit of a nerf there. We also have a nerf here, 20% to 16%. The same here, it's 100% to 80%. 20% to 16%. Same with Divine Embrace, 150% to 120%. Enchanted Justice going down from 10% to 8%. I can't remember what this is, but I'm pretty sure it was more. Let me double check real quick. Yeah, so this used to be 7.5 and it's now down to 6%. So again, Aura Protection gets nerfed for a second time in a row. Poor Aura Protection. So yeah, just generally quite a few nerfs. It is worth mentioning Splash of Light did get buffed. It went from 50% to 60%. I still think Splash of Light is like a pretty poo-poo ability, so I wouldn't recommend using it. But generally, quite a few nerfs for the life staff. However, it's not all doom and gloom to some extent, as we did get some buffs. The medium and light armor bonus for healing are now actually working. Kind of. So if we do go into the light equipment load or to the medium equipment load, medium now gives us a 15% to bonus healing, and in the light we get a 30% to bonus healing. However, it's not seeming like it's quite like those numbers. I checked a little bit earlier on, and I guess all of the healing bonuses do get squished down, so you don't actually get 30% after you add in like a Divine Blessing, and you add in Sacred from your ring, and you add in the 150 focus like bonus. What do we call it? Like this thing here. It doesn't actually end up giving you 30% healing, again, because I assume it's the percentage of the percentage or whatever, but you still do get an increase in healing. However, that being said, having tried it out in both Outpost Rush and in an Expedition, I still feel like heavy armor healing is the way to go. You're just so much more tanky. You can actually take a few hits. And despite the healing getting nerfed, I still feel like healing is good enough that you can warrant, foregoing that little extra bonus that you get in light versus the massive downside that you can die super, super quickly. Now, again, I'm only 8 hours into the PTS. I don't have like an extensive amount of time on this test version of the game, so some things may change over time, but that's currently where I'm standing right now in terms of the changes to the life staff, the nerfs. I still think life staff is still good enough that you can use it in heavy armor, and you'll be just fine. The light armor, medium armor, although you do get extra bonuses, you're still just far too squishy, it feels like. Now, one of the other huge things that's going to come in and make changes to the game in terms of the healing meta is the Void Gauntlet. So this is one of the first new weapons we've had in New World in quite some time, and it scales off of focus as a secondary. However, the healing abilities, which we have a few of, like Orb of Decay and also the Void Caller, these heals scale exclusively with focus, as it says there. So if you want your Void Gauntlet to do a decent amount of healing, you have to put points into focus. However, if you want your Void Gauntlet to do a decent amount of damage, you have to put your points into intelligence. Now, I think depending on whether you're going for PvP or PvE, there are different ways to run the Void Gauntlet. I've come up with 2 builds so far, which I'm pretty happy with. One of the best abilities for the Void Gauntlet, I do feel, is the Void Blade ability. So when you take this, you can actually turn what is normally a ranged weapon, a bit like the Ice Gauntlet, into a melee weapon. You summon like a Blade of Darkness, and you can attack people with it. It's currently one of the best ways to get stacks on the Void Gauntlet, and you need stacks of Void Essence in order to use both of these ultimates here. So if you want to get the Void Caller ultimate passive to pop, you need to get 6 stacks, and if you want to get the Glimpse of the Void passive, then you need to get 4 stacks and then do a heavy attack. So either way, building stacks generally seems to be kind of tricky right now, but the Void Blade is very good at doing that. However, right now I'm going to specifically talk about the PvP side of things, because again, I do think this has massive implications to the life staff and how everything's going to go down. So in terms of a PvP build for the Void Gauntlet, I've currently been eyeing up Orb of Decay, And then over here, I've also been enjoying Oblivion, and then finally the Petrifying Scream. Ultimately, I still think that I want to go for the Void Caller ultimate over here on the left side. I just don't really... I feel like the Glimpse of the Void is a little bit clunky and tricky to pull off, and resetting all of the cooldowns at the cost of like trying to achieve this, it feels like you could be doing better things in the meantime. I'm really enjoying Oblivion, even though it doesn't build any stacks at all, which is a bit of a shame. I still feel like it is a pretty solid ability. It gives everybody that's standing in it a 20% damage buff, which is that's pretty significant. You can pop that on your mages and your rangers in the backline and help them to do a lot of damage, or drop it on top of your melee who are on the point in like a war or outpost rush scenario. Comes in pretty handy. On top of that, you can also reduce the enemy's damage that they do to you. You can weaken them by attacking them, and then you can give everybody stamina as well. So just a nice support ability here. Going over to the Orb, I'm not entirely sure if I do enjoy this ability. I feel like it is a little bit clunky to use. Sometimes it's hard to see where it's going, especially if we fire it under the ground. We do have the option to fully max out the orb and detonate it, and I'm still not entirely sure if I enjoy this ability or not. Technically, it's some way to provide burst healing, but I honestly think just having the orb sort of go out and then roll back through your team seems to provide more healing than detonating it. But as I said, one of the problems that I do find is if you fire it like through a wall or something, you get kind of like lost. It feels like it goes a little bit too fast right now, so maybe Amazon could look at slowing it down or something, but it does feel pretty difficult to weave in. But I feel like the heal that it provides is probably one of the best heals we can get from the Void Gauntlet right now, in terms of helping out our team and keeping everybody alive. So ultimately, I settled on something a bit like this for the PvP side of things. One of the abilities that I haven't covered is the Petrifying Scream. Now, this is a short-range AoE root that does weapon damage as well, so you can go up to things and then hit them with the Scream. You root them in place, and you do a bit of damage as well. Now, overall, that might not sound too exciting, and certainly I would agree that just like that alone isn't that cool. Even then, with the added bonuses, we can get increase the root duration. If they're below 50% health, we can root them for 3 seconds. And also, if we can hit 3 or more enemies, we can get a 30% damage absorption for 10 seconds, which is pretty big. But one of the things that is absolutely crazy about Petrifying Scream, and I think is going to change the sort of meta and the way New World is played quite a lot if this change does make it to live, is if we go to the Arcana station here and we look at crafting a Void Gauntlet. So let's go to a Orichalcum Void Gauntlet, and then we look at what perks we can add to it. It's this one in particular that like has me going, that's quite interesting. Where is it? Here we go. Putrefying Scream. Crafting item with an attunement to the Putrefying Scream perk. On successful hit, Petrifying Scream inflicts disease, reducing target's healing by 25% for 10 seconds. Now, I checked out New World Database, and I'm not entirely sure if it's true, so we'll have to take it with a pinch of salt, but apparently this perk can scale all the way up to 50%. So reducing the target's healing by 50% for 10 seconds. That is a significant debuff to healing. That is like cutting the healing in half, on top of the fact that we already have reduced healing coming in from the general nerfs to the life staff. This could really shut healers down, honestly. In a PvP scenario, this could be big, and we're going to see, I suspect, if it goes through, a lot of Void Gauntlets being used in war for exactly that reason. You hit people with the Scream, and then maybe you swap to the Hammer and hit them with the Stun, or vice versa, stun them, then Scream, just locking them out of really, half of their healing. Suddenly they're healing for like way less when they're in the Sacred Ground. Really big changes there. Some other things that are pretty massive in terms of what we can add to the Void Gauntlet are also this Steel Void Gauntlet Charm for diminishing Orb. It says, on hit, Orb of Decay reduces the duration of target's buffs by 20 to 50%. I don't know if this includes like food buffs and stuff. I feel like that'd be pretty toxic if that was the case. You could just like, you go into war and everybody eats the Constitution food that lasts for 40 minutes and you reduce it down to 20%. You reduce it down to 20 minutes just by hitting them with 1 Orb of Decay. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. And then we have another one here as well. On activation, Oblivion removes limited duration buffs from enemies within radius. So again, another way to strip buffs. A pretty powerful debuffing weapon that we have with the Void Gauntlet, with both Oblivion, with the Scream, and also with the Orb as well. In conjunction, we can still keep doing our stuff with the Life Staff. One thing that I didn't mention that's pretty cool is when we are in the Oblivion, if we get the final buff here, it says plus 15 stamina per second for self and friendlies while inside the radius. So if we live in a world where we're playing like some Outpost Rush or something, or even, juggling a bunch of enemies in a dungeon, we could drop our Beacon down, we could drop our Sacred Ground down, We could go here, put the Oblivion down, and then just get a bunch of stamina while we are standing inside of the Oblivion here. We're getting 15 stamina a second, which is going to allow us to dodge, 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 dodge. And it might even enable a sort of medium armor playstyle as well, where it doesn't matter if you're a little bit squishier in medium armor, because you can just keep dodging over and over and over again to your heart's content. So yeah, I'm going to have to check that one out to see exactly how it works. One thing that I do know a bunch of you guys will be interested in is how can we make the Void Gauntlet work in PvE. We've talked about the PvP baggins. You've convinced us, you've scared us that Lifestaff's going to get wrecked in PvP. But what about the PvE side of things with Lifestaff and healing in general? What are we looking at there with the Void Gauntlet? So in PvE, this has been my go-to build for now. The main difference that you'll notice is we've swapped out the Petrifying Scream because we don't really care too much about reducing the enemy's healing in PvE, and instead we're looking to take the Void Blade. Now the Void Blade, as we mentioned earlier, is one of the best enablers for building stacks, so you can get Void Caller and Glimpse of the Void. If we just go find a wolf, we can do a little demonstration here of exactly what that would look like. So if we imagine this wolf over here is like a spooky boss enemy and we're going in as a team to take him down, the typical sort of PvE rotation for me would look something like we throw out the beacon and the sacred grounds. In any order, maybe you build the stacks before that. We put down the Oblivion, we hit him with the orb, and then we pop the Void Blade, and we start working on getting those stacks to pop the Void Caller. The Void Caller looks a little bit like this if I can actually land my attacks on the wolf here. There we go. So we got the Void Caller. Interesting thing about it as well is you can swap, and it does stay there for a little while on the ground as well. So you can, once you get the Void Caller passive to pop, switch back to the Lifestaff to start immediately doing heals again. I think combined with the Oblivion to buff your team's damage, also give them stamina, the Orb just to roll out, do a bit of damage, roll back and get a bit of healing, and then obviously where you have the Beacon and Sacred Ground rolling, if you can then get to the Void Caller passive, it is just like a lot of sort of general AoE healing. Now, in more tank damage intensive fights, you might just have to stay with the Lifestaff equipped so you can hit people with the Light's Embrace. I think one thing that we could look at doing is changing the Orb of Decay to Essence Rupture if you just want to have a bit more of a passive experience with the Void Gauntlet. If like Orb is a little bit too hard to weave in, which I think sometimes it can be kind of tricky and it's also very mana intensive, you can throw out the Essence Rupture instead. It's basically just a debuff that when your team hit the enemy, so if they're hitting a boss, they're going to heal for 20% of the damage they do to the boss. So it's a pretty small heal, but it overall just adds more to the AoE healing that you're also getting from Void Caller and from Beacon and from Sacred Grounds. So yeah, just a lot of sort of passive healing that you can do on the sly, just like dropping out the abilities and then switching back to the Lifestaff again, kind of like in the same way that we use the Ice Gauntlet where we drop the Ice Storm and switch back. One other quick thing that I do want to mention as well, you guys may have already seen it, but with the Void Gauntlet, it does have a pretty cool way to get mana back. So if we just burn a bunch of mana here, and then we go over here, burn some mana, burn some mana, burn some mana. All right, so we're pretty low on mana now, but what we can do is stand inside our heals and start using this right-click ability here. So if you hold down block with the Void Gauntlet, you can actually turn your life into mana, which is pretty cool. Obviously, you can't kill yourself. I think you go down to about 10% HP, but if we stand in our Sacred Grounds, and ideally I should have used Ben Light before I did that, but if I stand in my Sacred Grounds and then I use the right click, it basically negates the damage I'm doing, so you can kind of have like infinite mana. Now obviously you can't really do anything else while you're sort of casting this life to mana conversion, but a pretty cool thing with the Void Gauntlet, and again gives us a little bit more synergy and a little bit of something to think about when you are using the Void Gauntlet in your healer combo build. This whole time, in case people were curious, my stats looked a little bit like this, so we're a little bit high in the focus. I usually like to be at above 150 constitution, but I do find this to be like sort of my optimal build these days, like 250 plus focus, 150 plus constitution. And yeah, that's the video, guys. Let me know what you guys are thinking about the Void Gauntlet in the comments down below. If you guys have any other build suggestions, any ways or interesting like applications that you found to use the Void Gauntlet as like a healer weapon, again, let me know about those as well. If you want more baggage, you can find me live on Twitch every day. I'll put a link to the stream in the description down below. We also upload videos to Facebook Gaming as well, so highlights from the stream, you can find those over there, facebook.com/BagginsTV. Again, another link to that one in the description down below. But hope you guys have enjoyed this video. As always, if you do, make sure you go ahead and click the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.